by the director of Moon Knight. This was my graduate film at the HFBK, which is Hochschule für Bildende Künste in German, and that means University of Fine Arts. And in Hamburg, Germany. And my professor was Angela Shanelet. So Moon Knight, which is Tsuki no yoru in Japanese, is about a young woman who comes back home late at night from work. And we realize sooner or later that she recently lost someone in her life. And she's still getting through that, but she has to work and life goes on anyway. And then she casually flies to the moon, flies back home, and there's a surprise waiting for her when she's back.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I think that one of the special things about your short film is that you introduce this fantasy of the trip to the moon. I was wondering if you had this idea from the beginning, or what was the process to find this combination between reality and fantasy?
I actually had this idea for a few years. I was supposed to make the film when I was in my bachelor studies, but I didn't know how to fly to the moon. I didn't know how to make this happen because I didn't know any set designer at the time who could build the moon. And originally the story was actually about an overworked young woman in Japan, which is very typical, and someone who just wants to fly away from all of that work stress to the moon. Yeah, but then I kind of let go of the idea and moved on with other projects and graduated my bachelor studies with a completely different idea. And then when I entered my master's studies, the pandemic hit, and then I was really lost. I had no clue what I could shoot anymore. Like, I didn't want to show people in masks, and I loved shooting in trains and like public transportation. So this was a huge problem for me, and I was completely lost for quite a while, like probably well into the pandemic, like a year probably. And then around that time, my mom got diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, and then thank you. Yeah, that was hard because it was the pancreas, so it was really quick. And then I really had no idea anymore what to do. I was not only lost as a filmmaker, but also as a person. And I managed to fly back to Tokyo thanks to my brother, who bought me tickets behind my mom's back. She wanted me to stay in Germany and focus on my studies. But obviously that wasn't possible. I was constantly thinking of her.
Sure.
And then and then I managed to be there on time, and I got to say goodbye, and I came back, and then suddenly it was clear, oh, this idea that was sleeping the whole time in my laptop in a folder called Moon suddenly talked to me and said, okay, we're gonna try to make this happen this time. And strangely, before I flew to Japan, this acquaintance that I had who was around me for years, I got to get to know her more through another project where I did sound for a friend, and she did set design. And this one day on set, I was really emotional about my mom. And she offered me help. Like she said, if you need set design for your next project, just I want to let you know that
Hmm.
I'm there for you. And and then we got along really well from then on, even though she was around for years. It was like that moment that made us close. And then it turns out that she's born on the same day as my mom.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Wow,
crazy.
that's amazing.
And so she's the one that made this film possible. Her name is Catherine Beckers, and yeah, shout out to her. She's amazing.
I was wondering in which moment did you decide that you wanted to be also in front of the camera? And how was that experience for you?
This was not a quick decision. I actually considered a long time to have someone else act, and I was looking for this person for a long time. Um, really up to the point where it was almost dangerous. Like we almost had to shoot, and I was still like, where is she? Where is this person? And then, and then suddenly it dawned on me like, oh, I'm like the only person that can do this. This is about me, so I have to do this. And Angela, my professor, she also acted in her film, so I kind of approached her and said, "What do you think about it?" And she's like, "Do it, do it." So that's how it happened. Yeah. And as for the brother, it was also like very close. Like we were already shooting my scenes, and he wasn't there yet.
Wow.
And I just, yeah, I had a really hard time finding this person because I'm so picky. And and I remember this like story of Claire Denis who had trouble with like finding the baby for High Life. And
Yeah.
like they and they found the baby like a day after shooting. So I kept on telling myself, like, you can do this. It's not as bad as Claire Denis. And then he appeared, so I was so grateful.
And
Yeah, on time.
how was the experience for you to be in front of the camera once you made the decision?
It was calming. It was strangely calming. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that my friends were all around me and they were full of support and they knew what I went through and they were really there for me, and um, especially my best friend, or what's best friend? That's such a weird word. One of my closest and dearest friends, Kyla Bawa, who assisted me throughout most of my films during my studies.
Mhm.
She really helped me stay calm, and my set designer Katrin was also very helpful,
Mm,
guiding me. So it was good to have my two girls there,
sure,
who both knew like what I wanted, and so I didn't have to like constantly worry about how I appear.
sure.
And also strangely, the sound of the film rolling was calming. That's not something you experience with digital cameras. You don't hear anything, but this purr from the camera is so beautiful, and it helped me focus. It's like, okay, now we're rolling, and this is it.
That's beautiful. Now I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your film school.
Okay, so the thing about HFPK is that it's not a film school, it's a fine art school or art school that has a film department. I think that's the huge difference. And in our case, I think, yeah, it's very, I would say it's so full of freedom that you would have to be very determined in order to actually produce the way you want, I guess, or produce at all, because there's just so much freedom that you can get lost in it. And it's important to know what you want to do with that freedom. And that's why I chose it, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to do what I want. And Angela is also someone that supports that, and she's very open. She just wants you to do what you feel is right. And she won't put you in a box or something, or like stories I hear from my former roommates who went to film schools. It seems more constructed and more like it has more assignments and has more people that you have to answer in a way. And I feel like at my school, it's just like, what do you want? And how do you want to do it? And since I know what I want to do and how I want to do it, it's perfect.
That's great. And the final question is, what does cinema mean for you?
I feel like it's always been in my life. I almost don't remember the time there wasn't cinema in my life. And I think that shows how important cinema is for me, just especially since the pandemic. I feel like everyone realized how much it soothes us or entertains us, and how much nourishment we get from watching films. It's just as important as sleep and food for me. Like, I really have to eat films and drink films in order to keep going. So yeah, and it's especially as a filmmaker important for me to somehow make people realize something or feel something. I think this is important for all of us who make films, to make someone see something differently. And then once you get out of the cinema, then it opens more possibilities somehow.